yours, Judy, Tracy, Victor, me. Yeah.
It's clear.
It's percentage. We actually had someone else who chose to have the seat, but they said that wasn't fair. You're saying. How you doing?
What's the word?
Freedom?
Is that the word of the day?
Job search?
Take over.
I know. So
Are you guys getting?
can I get some friends?
Not yet.
Funny.
I think I may have ultrasound for him before.
You know,
Or something else.
long before.
He's got a lot of time.
The man is used to like
Thanks.
running programs and doing stuff and researching.
People already tried.
Mr. Duffy, is it like money?
I'll try to be careful not to.
Oh, what?
How much money do you
Money for the Vegas concert. Or just to be the Joseph, but
Seat taken.
Hey, so Sean, you know
I'm short.
y'all team. So the winning team gets seats to help you recover from your weight loss.
Can we go retro?
that's not.
Hey, Kevin won a game and you already lost.
That is so wrong.
We don't get retro credit?
Daniel left my I'll probably have the sheets,
We're
but
going straight to donuts. We're just going straight to Duck Donuts.
Let me just say, I'm not gonna put it back on just to lose it again. Hey Tracy, I'm not gonna put it back on just to lose it again. Really fun.
Welcome. I'd like to welcome everyone as we start the kickoff for the Hispanic Heritage Month for this year, 2015. Yeah. Well, I'd like to have a special thank you to our leadership here, Mr. Dunphy, Ms. Andrew, Ms. Tyndall, and I know Dr. Rule Spirit is here somewhere, Ms. Bailey, and our EO manager. Where is he? Oh, there he is. Mr. Walker, thank you all for coming, colleagues, veterans, all of our friends, thank you for coming today and to help us kick off this day. During our National Hispanic Heritage Month, which starts on September 15th through October 15th, we recognize the contributions made and the important presence of Hispanic and Latino Americans to the United States and to celebrate their heritage and culture. Hispanics have made a profound and positive influence on our country through their strong commitment, through their faith, hard work, family, and their service. They have enhanced and shaped our national character with century-old traditions that reflect the multi-ethnic and multicultural customs of their country and community. Hispanic Heritage Month, whose roots begin in 1968 with the anniversary of independence of the 5 Latin American countries. The term Hispanic or Latino, as everyone knows them, refers to Puerto Ricans like me, South Americans, Central American, and other Spanish cultures, regardless of their race. According to the census, and that was in 2010, so you know there's many, many more of us now. But back then there were 50.5 million or 16% of the US population. And so today, as we begin energizing our nation's diversity with our Heritage Month celebration, I want to talk about the importance of why we celebrate it and why we need to really think about some of the factors that affect Latinos and Hispanic Americans. The federal government and the VA strives to be an employer of choice. And in doing so, it's very important for us to think about diversity and how we do that. And they take it not only serious in just in their themes and what they're doing, but they make analysis each year, what we call the barrier analysis, and it's done throughout the VA. And what it does is that it looks at the processes of removing organizational barriers from policies, procedures, practices, and it limits or restricts free and open competition for all groups to participate in employment opportunities and benefits. It is essential for the VA to become a model employer. To achieve this status, the VA creates a barrier-free environment where all applicants and employees have the opportunity to compete and work to their full potential. They do each year here at this VA what we call the MD 715, and the purpose of that is that it's an executive summary to our quad, and it informs all managers, supervisors of their responsibilities regarding the status of the facility's EEO programs. It provides an important overview of the EEO program's administrative deficiencies, and they address, actions in those areas. So when I say that they take it seriously, they really do. And so in this particular medical center, they have worked hard on doing that. And last year, our leadership, we had panel speakers, and they talked about some of the barriers and the difficulties they had in applying for employment here at the VA and other federal facilities. And it was incredible to hear that the theme was that many of them, some in the back, have had to put at least 30 applications just to get an interview to come in. So it is an issue for us, and it's important. But since that time, just from last year to this time, our leadership not only listened, but they actually heard us. And since that time, we went from a whopping 29, in this medical facility. We had 3 new hires that are Hispanics in key positions, and many of our fellow Hispanic Employment Program committee members. We had 3 of them who've had promotions through hard work and following the processes that are available to them here. And so I really want to thank our leadership, HR, and all those chiefs and managers who strive to try to make this work this year. Thank you very much. To just hear us and do something actually about it. So, well, I'm not going to belabor this, but I want to thank you all, and I would like to introduce our fearless leader and director, Mr. Michael Dunphy, to come in. And he's going to introduce our guest speaker.
All right, I'm introducing Odette too.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's probably what everybody is here to hear from, so I'll be brief. I really enjoy coming to these events because diversity is obviously very important for our organization. Obviously, what we're here for, while we all have jobs, is to take care of our veterans. And we talk over and over again about the best way to do that is to make this a good place to work, so that you all will do the best possible job of taking care of our veterans. One of the things that's important about making any workplace a good place to come to work at is feeling accepted and feeling valued for your heritage and your background. And there's all kinds of things that make us different. But that's one of the important ones. People want to understand that their upbringing, their values of their culture, their heritage are something that's accepted, and that the organization wants to take some time to learn about and value. And so that's why it's so important that we have these kinds of events, just to take some time out of our busy days and understand some of the things that make us special and unique as individuals. And some of those things that we bring with us to work every day, and in most cases then are special about where we go home, where we raise our children, where we were raised as individuals. So anyway, it's very important that we do this. I'm glad so many of you attended. It looks like it's a full house at this point, all the seats taken, so that's good. But anyway, I look forward to hearing from Odette, getting some insight into the culture, and then trying to sample some of the food a little bit later. So anyway, Odette, over to you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Duffy. Thank you for the introduction. Members of the Hampton BAMC leadership team, fellow employees, and fellow veterans. I am indeed honored. This is an honor and a privilege to actually speak to you today to begin this year's Hispanic Heritage Month, where we are energizing our nation's diversity. And I do not take this obligation lightly because I've been chosen today to represent Hispanic Americans. I'm a strong believer that things happen for a reason, and truly happy that I've been given this opportunity to share with you, to share my heart with you, and to help energize you. We're on a journey of understanding and embracing cultural diversity in this great nation of ours. This is truly a journey. It's a journey here at Hampton. And as you read our nation's story, our nation's history, you'll know that as we learn about different cultures and embrace different cultures, this is definitely a marathon and not a sprint. So as I started to think about what it was I was going to talk to you today, I looked up the word energizing. Energizing means, it's a verb. It means to give vitality, enthusiasm to. The synonyms were enliven, vitalize, invigorate, excite, electrify, rouse, motivate, move, drive, and encourage. So I thought, what am I going to say to energize them? And I thought, wow, that's a pretty incredible task that you put in front of yourself. But what excites me about this nation is that we are truly a melting pot with so many different nationalities, and we have become a great nation because of that. What excites me is hearing the stories of great people from different backgrounds, hearing the story, hearing their heritage, knowing about our cultural differences. This is truly interesting to me. So interesting that my husband will usually tell me that I'm nosy. I like to call it inquisitive, because I always ask lots of questions. I want to know why you're a certain way, because I believe that when you talk to people and you learn more about them, then you will do better as far as understanding why they behave in a certain way. What are their values? What's important to them? What makes them tick? What makes them think the way that they do? And if you get a chance to sit down with me, and many of you have, you'll realize that I ask a lot of questions, usually the work-related questions. But I ask you a lot of questions about your heritage and just where are you from? Because I am truly interested in learning. I am constantly learning. So energizing the nation's diversity in my mind is being excited about diversity. And in particular today, we're focusing on Hispanic Americans. Some of you are actually surprised that I'm standing here and that I'm a Hispanic. When I was walking in, one person said, oh, we're here today. And I said, yes, I'm speaking. And she says, oh, you're Hispanic. Yes, I am. I was born in Panama. I moved to this country at the age of 4. My mom is Panamanian. My dad's from Richmond. He's an American. I must say, since I'm here in the VA, both of them are veterans. One's a veteran of the Army. I won't hold that against her. The other one's a veteran of the Air Force. My mom used to send my brother and I back to Panama every year for 3 entire months. I actually think she was trying to get rid of us. It was a break for her. And she did that until I was 16. And then I went back to Panama and I was there for an entire year. If you ever get a chance to meet my entire family, you will know that they are Hispanic because they have very heavy accents. Myself, on the other hand, you don't hear an accent. And usually that's definitely a giveaway for anyone who's from a different country that they'll have an accent. So as I said, I do not have an accent. Soy de Panamá, mi madre es de Panamá, mi padre es de Richmond. So if you hear me then change it and talk like that, you might say, oh, okay, she's Hispanic. Of course, many Hispanics in the room, they'll hear me say that, then immediately they'll start talking to me back in Spanish. I'm going, whoa, hold on a second. Because don't let that fool you. I am not that fluent, but I definitely understand a lot of the language, and if you try to say something bad about me, I will know that as well. So now there's a story behind why I am not as fluent. And in my adult years, actually all the way up until age 40, I spoke to my mother and I said, Mom, why did you not speak Spanish to me in the home? And I said to her, I said, tu te falta. And that meant it's your fault. And I told her it was her fault because she did not speak to us in Spanish. And she said to me that she didn't do that because she thought it was going to be a disadvantage for my brother and I. A disadvantage to have an accent as far as being able to compete for jobs. And I didn't quite understand that because nowadays it does make a lot of sense to have a second language, to speak Spanish. But coming, understanding culture, remember, understanding heritage, that was the perception that she had when she came to this country. Now, I've been quite surprised as I stumble upon many Hispanic Americans here in Hampton. You see, Hispanics come in many shades. Some are darker than me, some are bronze colored with straight black hair, wavy, you name it. Some are blonde with blue eyes. Same with my aunts and my uncles. There are different shades. They have accents. That's usually why you can tell who they are. One day I went salsa dancing, because I like to salsa dance. I was in a club and there was a lady in there who was, I mean, she could really dance. She's blonde, very blue eyes, and she was from Puerto Rico. I then recently met Dr. Harrigan, our pharmacist here. She's dark-skinned. I was talking to her, next thing I know, she's from the Dominican Republic and very fluent. So my point is, when you're walking around this facility, there are many Hispanics around you, and you may not know that they are Hispanic because they come in different shades. Yes, you might look at some of the features and go, that person is probably Hispanic, but you may not always be correct. So let me share some facts, some trivia with you, because along with them, Hispanics being of different shades and different colors, they have made many contributions to our country. Hispanics come from 20 nations of our world, and Maritza kind of alluded to this. 20 nations in which the official language is Spanish. Spain, Mexico, Cuba, Dominican Republic, Guatemala, Panama, Costa Rica, Nicaragua, El Salvador, Colombia, Venezuela, Peru, Chile, Ecuador, Paraguay, Uruguay, Honduras, Argentina, Bolivia, Belize, Equatorial Guinea, and Puerto Rico. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, which published current population reports in March of 2015, the total population projected in 2014 was supposed to be 17%. And then 29% in the year 2060. What's interesting is the third fact. Hispanics are now the largest ethnic minority group. So as the Hispanic population has grown over the years, they have made many contributions, and I wanted to share some of these contributions with you. And many of you are familiar with some of the more famous Hispanics, such as Sonia Sotomayor. Many of you guys know her. She was Puerto Rican born, actually, or Puerto Rican born parents, and she was the first Hispanic American Supreme Court Justice. And she was also the third female Supreme Court Justice. But let me share with you about some others, and looking at some September facts that came out, and they were published by the Defense Equal Opportunity Management Institute. Next slide. Joseph Marion Hernandez. He was the first Hispanic to serve in Congress and the first delegate in the territory of Florida. He was elected to the U.S. House of Representatives, where he served until March 3rd of 1823. Susana Martinez. In 2010, she became the first female governor of New Mexico and the first Hispanic female governor in the United States. David G. Farragut, he served in the Union Navy and later became the first admiral of the U.S. Navy and created the rank to award him in the victory of the Battle of Mobile Bay. Liena was born in Havana, Cuba in 1952. She was elected to the Florida House of Representatives. She became the first Hispanic woman in Florida's state legislature. I have a few more, bear with me. In 1961, Rita Moreno became the first Hispanic actress to win an Academy Award, also known as the Oscar, and she won Best Supporting Actress in her role of West Side Story. Luis Alvarez became the first Hispanic American to win the Nobel Peace Prize, the Nobel Prize in Physics. Now, it says here, he won the prize for his decisive contributions to elementary particle physics, and particularly the discovery of large number of resonant states, ... Anybody want to translate that for me? Please do so. Wow. In 2014, President Barack Obama corrected a historical act of discrimination when he awarded the Medal of Honor to 24 Hispanics, Jewish, and African American veterans who were passed over because of their racial and ethnic backgrounds. It was one of the largest Medal of Honor ceremonies in history. In 2011, Sylvia Mendez was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom at a ceremony at the White House. As a child, Mendez and other Hispanic children were barred from attending all-white public schools in California's segregated public system. And finally, Franklin Chain Diaz, born in Costa Rica, selected for the National Aeronautics and Space Administration's astronaut program, the first Hispanic in space when he flew above the Space Shuttle Columbia in 1986. So you can see Hispanics have made great contributions to our nation, and we have much to be proud of. Now, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about stereotypes and bring this a little bit closer to home, because stereotypes can lead to misunderstandings, and some people get offended. It says that a stereotype is defined as a wildly held but fixed and oversimplified image or idea of a particular person or thing. So based on that definition, I think it's really important that we, employees together sitting here, that we talk to each other, that we're open about our heritage and our culture. I remember being a cadet in the Air Force Academy, and my roommate, she was Caucasian. She came from a small town. Her graduating class of high school was 20, and I was the first person of color that she had ever met. And I thought, she's never met anybody of color. But we sat down one day and we said, we need to talk so we can understand our cultural differences. And we spent a lot of time talking about stereotypes and talking about, I basically asked her, so what is it that you know about people of color? And we were able to share that experience. And because of that, we built a stronger connection. And we actually became very good friends. After all, I had to room with her for a year. So that was a good thing. So I decided today, or while I was deciding what to talk to you about today, I checked a site that was written by teachers, and it was entitled Race Bridges for Schools. And their units are designed to assist in reflecting and talking about diversity, inclusion, and race relations. And they talked about two myths. So I'll talk to you a little bit about the two myths that they shared. And the reason I'm talking about some of these myths is because I can definitely relate to what these myths are. The first myth that they mentioned was most Hispanics are immigrants. Well, that's not true. We found out that only about 1/3 of the Hispanic population in America are immigrants. The remainder have been born here in the United States. The second was academic success is measured by the mastery of the English language. And that's false, because because being able to communicate fluently in Spanish is not an indicator of how well you understand the academic material. And why this one in particular radiated with me was because my mother went to school in Miami to become a registered nurse. And she literally had to learn the class twice. She would go to school, learn the subject matter, and for any of you who are nurses in here, I think you can probably relate to this, some in the front here. She went to school, she read the material, she went back to home, translated it in Spanish, did her flashcards in Spanish. So in my opinion, she was going to school twice every day. And she became a registered nurse. And it had nothing to do with how fluent that she could speak the English language, but it had to do with her understanding of the material. So that was a myth. I decided to also look at some misconceptions that I've heard throughout my life. These are a little lighthearted. Went onto the internet, and you know it's dangerous going onto the internet. But I picked this site, and I looked at Latino Times, and of course, you know, there are probably some other sites that I could have gone to. But this one, I looked and I said, yep, I've heard these things. I've heard these things throughout my life, and I'd just like to share some of these with you. And these were the 12 most misconceptions, excuse me, the 12 most common misconceptions about Latinos. First one. Next slide. Next slide. Thank you. Our hometown is either a beach or a desert. We have the best weather everywhere, all year long. Well, I'm from Panama. My hometown wasn't a beach or desert. Of course, it is a very narrow country, but it rained a lot. The second one, we can handle super spicy food or add hot sauce to everything. I have family members who don't like spicy food. Now granted, I do love spicy food, and we have a Panamanian hot sauce that is to die for. It's homemade. Come to my house, you might get a little smidgen. I might share some with you. But there are a lot of Hispanics who don't like Hispanic food. The third one, all Latinos are Mexican. Now I come from Sacramento, heavily populated with Mexicans, but we don't call all Latinos Mexican because I had mentioned we have Hispanics from many different countries. Fourth, Latinos all look a certain way, brown. Okay, some do, and it was interesting when I looked this one up. The reason that they had mentioned this was because a lot of us have grown up with, you know, what cartoon do you think I'm thinking of? Hispanic cartoons. Dora the Explorer. Everybody reads that, they think all Hispanics look that way. Fifth, we all know how to dance salsa or cha-cha-cha, and we know the word la bamba. Now, yes, I do like salsa, merengue, I can do all of that. However, not all of us can. I have family members in my family that can barely go right and left and stay on beat. So that is definitely, I thought, no, that is truly a misconception. All Latinos can drink tequila and lots of it. That's not the case either. 7, Latinos tend to wear some form of traditional costume constantly. Now this one was kind of interesting because I couldn't figure out where they were coming up with this one. But they showed a picture of Donald Duck and his brothers, and they were wearing sombreros. So I guess that's where that one came from. The 8th misconception, you're not Latino if you do not speak Spanish. And I alluded to that earlier when I was speaking. Because there are many Hispanics in this country that when you come and speak to them, and those of you, I think we have a great group of Hispanics in the back. How many times have you spoken to someone thinking that they're going to speak back to you in Spanish and they don't know a word? Okay, like I said to my mother, okay. Number 9, Latinos can handle really hot weather because they're used to it. Now Panama is at the equator. My mother cannot stand hot weather. Number 10, we are Spanish. But the thing is, Spanish people are from Spain. And sometimes what you'll hear is some of the individuals who are Hispanic and from Spain, they consider themselves Spanish. while others consider themselves Hispanic. So you just really have to be careful. Number 11, we eat hard-shell tacos, nachos, and burritos every day. Not the case. And number 12, that we mean American football when we say football. It's always soccer if we say football. Now, interesting story for me. I went to Panama, my brother and I, as I said, we'd go every year. First day going out to play with our friends. Oh, we're gonna play football. And I'm excited. Now the word football in English, F-O-O-T-B-A-L-L, and then in Spanish it's F-U-T-B-O-L, so football. I'm thinking we're going out, we got a little pigskin ball, we're playing football. American football, I get out there, I'm so disappointed to see it's soccer ball. Okay, but, so there's a difference. There's football americano, and that's what my cousin told me. It's not the same thing, you gotta figure that out. So I've shared with you some information today, and I hope that it does spark you some interest in learning and knowing more about someone that is different from you. And learning another culture and learning the diverse culture of the Hispanic community. I hope that this energizes you in some way this month to learn more about Hispanic Americans and to continue to embrace diversity. In IRM, we have Caucasians, African Americans from different parts of the country. We have Hispanics from Puerto Rico and now Panama. We have a person from Ghana. We have a person from Grenada. And I, for one, think it's awesome that we have such diversity in a small service that we have. So I encourage you today to learn about one another, to speak to each other, and learn about each other's heritage. Keep learning. You should always keep learning. We're never too old to continue to learn about one another. So let's continue to be a part of this theme of energizing our nation's diversity this Hispanic Heritage Month. Let's remember the important influence that the Hispanic heritage community has had on this great nation. Thank you for having me and allowing me to share with you today.
That was awesome. Thank you so much. Really, really appreciate everyone coming. I know your tummies are grumbling, and so is mine. But anyway, I just want to thank everyone for coming, sharing this time with us. You know, we appreciate our leadership, our colleagues, and our members. Can you all please raise your hands? This back there is the Hispanic Employment Program. So throughout the rest of the month, you know this ends on October 15th. You should be hearing some more stuff through the PAO. We're going to be sending some information out to keep you all energized and informed. And I want to thank you all and have a great day. We have our chaplain here who will bless our food, and it will be translated in Spanish, and then we can enjoy. Thank you all very much.
It's mine.
Eso es un pellón que estaba en el piso. ¿De quién es? Whose dime is it?
Well,